All right, Brian, can you read this one?
Classes. We have previously looked at two par paradigms, I don't know how to say that, of programming. Imperative, using statements, loops, functions, and routines, and functional, using pure functions, higher order functions, and recursion. Another very popular paradigm is object orientation program, OOP. Objects are created by using classes, which are actually the focus point of OOP. The classes describes what the object will be, but is separate from the object itself. In other words, a class can be described as a project's blueprint, description, or definition. You can use the same class as a blueprint for creating multiple different objects. Classes are created using keyword class and an indent block, which contains class methods, which are functions. Below is an example of simple classes and its objects. This code defines a class named cat, which has two attributes, color and legs. Then the class is used to create three separate objects of that class. Tap continue to learn more.
All right, go ahead and answer the first question. All right, what type of object is a method? It is a function. Sandra, can you read this one?
Sure, let me turn my video on too. The init method is the most important method in a class. This is called when an instance, an object of the class is created using the class name as a function. All methods must have self as their first parameter, although it isn't explicitly passed. Python adds the self argument to the list for you. You do not need to include it when you call the methods. Within a method definition, self refers to an instance calling the method. Instances of a class have attributes, which are pieces of data associated with them. In this example, cat instances have attributes, colors, and legs. These can be accessed by putting a dot and the attribute name after the instance. In an init method, self.attribute can therefore be used to set the initial value of an instance's attributes. There's an example. In this example above, the init method takes two arguments and assigns them to the object attributes. The init method is called the class constructor. Student class, to provide code definition, a student class created a student object and called its greet method. Fix the code to produce the expected output.
All right, so classes and object-oriented programming is used a lot in game design. So, which we're not going to be doing, but still a good thing to know. So with the init, it's when it's initialized. It's saying, okay, what to do when your class is initialized, and you don't actually technically need this, def init to use a class. Like, you can use a class without this, but if it's like the OOP thing, usually that's what you would be using, so that you can define the different types of objects, right? So yeah, and then like it says with the retrieval, Felix.color is going to get you whatever color for that class, for that cat. So like, let's do a different one, like it's a cat name. I don't know.
Tom and Jerry.
Oh yeah, there you go. Okay, so Tom, and so his color is gray, and maybe Jerry blew off one of his legs with some dynamite, so he's only got 3 legs. So then, you know, Tom dot color is going to get you, you know, whatever you assigned for that particular object, and this one is just going to get you what you assigned for this particular object. Like it could be different like characters in a game, right? And later we'll learn about like passing, you know, parent classes into other classes that have more attributes and stuff. But like you could have you know, a class animal, and that would have, you know, how many legs, how many um you know, if it has a tail or whatnot. um and then like later you could do cat and do stuff that's more specific to cats. So uh, I don't really know what's more specific to cats, but yeah, but anyway, we'll get to that. Any questions on this so far? No? Okay, so go ahead and answer the first question. Oh, actually, hold on. Nope, we got to do this. So go ahead and do the practice example and raise your hand once you're done. Okay, looks like a lot of you are done now. So go ahead. So for this one, all you needed to do was pass self into here. Because if you're going to use self inside a definition that's part of your class, you still need to pass it in there. So that's all you had to do for that one. Anybody stuck on that one or still need help or not understand it or anything? If so, unmute and let me know. Okay. So for this one, fill in the blanks to create a class and its constructor, taking one argument and assigning it to the name attribute, then create an object of the class. So class init with the underscore, 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 and then self dot name equals name, and then test student, and we pass in to student, we pass in Bob. Okay. So David, wait, are you there, David? No, I think he's away. Tim, can you read this one?
Hey, how you doing, Brandon? Hey, kind of went too fast on the last one. You got class in itself.
Yeah, class
Dot name.
init name or dot name, and then the
Those are the fronts.
yeah.
All right, I got you on the next one. All right. Methods. Classes can have other methods defined to add functionality to them. Remember that all methods must have self as their first parameter. These methods are accessed using the same dot syntax as attributes. Example, try yourself. Classes can also have class attributes created by assigning variables within the body of the class. These can be accessed either from instances of the class or the class itself. Example, try it yourself. Class attributes are shared by all instances of the class. Thank you.
Okay. So with this one, if we call, well, first we want to get the dog's name, because when we defined the object of the dog and named it Fido, we passed in the name Fido and the color brown because that's there. And when it says this self right here, you can think of the self as like whatever your object's name, right? Because it doesn't know the name, but it knows it's going to be itself, right? So it's like Fido.name is, you know, is, and then we're telling it what its name is, right? And then bark. So again, self, we've got self in there. And if we call the bark method, then it's going to do whatever's in this block of code. So any questions on that? Okay. And this one, so you can, basically what they're saying is, and this is called the, I think that would be a static method, would be, so you can either call, you know, Fido dot legs, because we passed in Fido and Brown, and like we have a preset variable that is going to apply to everything, like then doesn't have to be predefined because it's defined in there. So if we want to retrieve it, we can either call it by the object name or by the class name. So, okay, go ahead, answer the next question. Okay, fill in the blanks to create a class with a method, say hi, student, colon, and then, once we've already done our init, then def, say hi. So it's just like creating a function like outside a class, except then you're going to pass self into it. And then by passing self into it, you can then use any of your predefined stuff. So then you can call self.name right from your built-in method or function. So, okay. Roger, can you read this one?
Classes. Trying to access an attribute of an instance that isn't defined causes an attribute error. This also applies when you call an undefined method. Run the code and see how it works.
So as you can see, we get an error here because there is no triangle. But I mean, there is no color. But if, we added color. Then we wouldn't have that problem. But yeah, long story short, only call attributes that you actually created. I don't know why you would try calling.
How come you don't have to put that color in with the brackets for self width height?
Say that again.
When you have the def init self width height, then you have, and then you go back down, self dot width equals width, self dot height equals height. You have to define those, but when you put self dot color equals blue, you didn't have to define that up over at the def init. How come you didn't have to do that?
Because I just added a string. If I wanted to have something that was passed, so this is like the preset string that's gonna be, if you call this, it's always gonna get blue for every different type of the object because it's hard coded there, right? As opposed to up here is variables. So if we added variable here and then we wanted to use it, then like right here we could pass red because it goes in order, just like passing anything in there, except other than self, it ignores the self because that's the name of your object. But then when we pass that in, then we get red. So these are just variables, is why. Yeah, and anytime you see something in quotes, that's just a string. So yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead and answer. Wait, is there a next question? Yeah. Oops. Well, anyway, I already answered it. So what's the cause by trying to access unknown attributes? Attribute error. Okay. This is where we're going to be talking about, well, passing stuff in, I think. Hold on. Maybe not. Yeah, superclass. Well, anyway, we'll get back to it. Patricia, can you read this one?
Yeah. Inheritance. Inheritance provides a way to share functionality between classes. Imagine several classes, cat, dog, rabbit, and so on. Although they may differ in some ways, only dog might have the method bark. They are likely to be similar in others, all having the attributes color and name. This similarity can be expressed by making them all inherit from a superclass animal which contains the shared functionality. To inherit a class from another class, put the superclass name in parentheses after the class name.
So this is what I was talking about earlier with how like you could have something with multiple classes assigned to it because it inherits all the attributes of its parent class. So like when we run this, so since when we passed in Fido, we're having to pass in, even though it's dog and we look at dog, well, dog doesn't have anything to pass in, right? But its parent class or its superclass does. So when you're creating dog, in order to do the init, you still have to pass in Fido and Brown, right? And so then when you try and get the color for Fido, it's gonna get it from here, even though you didn't see it in dog, and dog's what we were creating. And then it could have like I said, unique things like um uh you know, deaf bark, only dogs do that, and cats, only cats purr, whatever, right? So, and you can actually, well, we'll get into it. You can have multiple super classes and stuff, but we'll get into that. Any questions on this so far? So basically, you're gonna have to provide the init stuff for both your superclass and your subclass. So which piece of code shows a new class span inheriting from eggs? Class span, and we're passing in the class eggs. David, can you read this one?
I'm sorry, I'm catching up. I had to.
Okay, no worries. Just let me know when you're caught up.
I will.
Put it in the chat or something. Mark, can you read this one?
Yeah. A class that inherits from another class is called a subclass. A class that inherited from a class, a superclass. If a class inherits from another with the same attributes or method, it overrides them. An example above, wolf is a superclass, dog is a subclass.
Okay, so go ahead and start the practice and raise your hand once you're done. All right, seems like a lot of you are done. So with this one, all we had to do was pass in vehicle to car, and then down here call the object dot horn. Anybody stuck on that one? Anyone not understand it? Need help? Anything? Okay, moving on. What's the result of this code? Class A, and then class B passing in A, and then B dot method, which is this one, returns 2. Because we're calling B directly and not, and because B is the closest one. So let's see. Kevin, can you read this one?
Inheritance can also be indirect. One class can inherit from another, and that class can inherit from a third class. However, circular inheritance is not possible.
Okay. So with this one, so we've created C, and C is of the is an object of the class inherits B, and B inherits A. So as you can see, we're able to inherit multiple different classes, and it's going to own all of the attributes. So calling C dot method returns the one from A, C dot another method returns the one from B, and C dot third method inherits the one from C. So you can see it inherits all that. And what it means by circular is not possible. So we couldn't then up here put, A inherits C, because that would just be crazy. But yeah, any questions on that? Nope. Okay. Go ahead, answer the next question. Okay, so what's the result of this code? So creates an object, name it lowercase c of the class C, and call C dot A. Well, A is defined here in B, and it tells it to print 2, so it's going to print 2. Okay. Ayani, can you read this one?
Yes, inheritance. The function super is a useful inheritance related function that refers to the parent class. It can be used to find the method with a certain name in an object's superclass. Example. Super.
Oh, well, as you see in this one, when they call super, so even though it's in the method spam, when they call super spam, it goes heads and calls the one from A because it knows A is its superclass. Any questions on that? Okay. Go ahead, answer the last question. Okay. What is the superclass of a class? The class it inherits from. Okay. I think that's everybody. So Brian, can you read this one?
Magic methods. Magic methods are special methods which have double underscores at the beginning and the end of their names. They are also known as Dunders. So far, the only one we have encountered is the int, but whenever there are several others, they are used to create functionality that can't be represented as a normal method. One common use of them is operator overloading. This means defining operators for custom classes that allow operators such as add and times to be used on them. An example of magic method is add 4+. The add method allows for the definition of a custom behavior for the add operator in our class. As you can see, it adds the corresponding attributes of the object and returns a new object containing the results. Once it is defined, we can add two objects of that class together.
You're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, so first you can see we define first and second, and then pass in the different things for the class 2D vector, right? So we get our X and Y. And then with second, when we print the result for the result is then going to be first plus second, right? And then the result for the X1 is going to be 8 because we passed in what's it called? 5 and 7. And so we've got where is it? Result for X, because we're getting multiple different ones. Because it's combining the result for X is 5 plus 3, and then the result for Y is going to be 7 plus 9, because self when we've got the other one, because we're combining it, when we're allowing it to add the two together, So the first X plus the second X is what gets our X result. And then our Y result is the first Y plus the second Y. So that one can be kind of confusing. But any questions on that?
So the 5 and the 7 in the first vector and the 3 and the 9, how's that coming in play?
Right. So the first, okay, so down here in result, we're doing first plus second, right? And so the 5 is the X for first, right? And then the Y is the result is 7, because up here, see how we pass the 2 in, but then we're just wanting the result for X. So the result of the combination of X and X. And then we're wanting the result for the second, which is the 2 Ys. Does that make sense or no? I don't know if I'm explaining that very clearly.
So if I understand what you're saying is, so in the second line where it says def in itself, X and Y, it actually doesn't have a number associated, but with the first and the second, you associate 5 and 7? Or how does that?
Well,
that's confusing. Where are you getting the numbers 5, 7, 3, and 9 from if you only have X and Y on top?
from right here, do you see where my mouse is circling?
Right. So yeah, I see those numbers.
Right. So when we pass it in, so on first, we're passing in X is 5, right? On second, because X is the first one that's in the order, right? So the first one you pass in is going to be the first one. The second one you pass in is going to be the second one, right? So we're passing in 5 for X. And then on this second one, we're passing in 3 because it's the first one. Because remember, we always skip self, right?
Okay.
So we passed in for X for each one 5 and 3. So they're both 5 and 3 is X, you see? And then the Y one is the second one. So the Y, we're passing in 7 and 9. And then when we add them together, when we do first plus second, then we just want the result of the X's, then that's how we get the result of the combination of the 2 X's. Does that make sense?
It makes a little bit more sense. I'm just trying to understand. So the first and the second in line 8 and 9.
Mhm.
So do you define what those numbers are in the parentheses or?
Yeah. When you're creating an instance of a class, that's how you create it. So like we could then do for first dot X, right? And it's going to give us 5 because we passed in 5 for X, right?
Okay.
That's just when we initialized the class. And if we did first dot Y, that's how we retrieve what we saved for those two.
Okay.
And then this part's a little more complicated because it's calling this add method that lets you add 2 classes together by returning a 2D vector that's got the X and the Y's. Sorry about that. I'm back.
That's okay.
What was the question again?
Okay, now you answered it. Now you clicked. I was just confused with with line number 8 and 9, where you came
Uh-huh.
up with a number, but it's just something that you create when you do. And so now I know how it all works. So I'm good.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
All right, go ahead and answer the first question. Okay, what is the magic method for creating an instance? It is init. Sandra, can you read this one?
Of course. Magic method. More magic methods for common operators. Sub for dash, mul for whatever. Okay, don't make me say all these things. I'm gonna get confused. The expression x plus y is translated into x dot underline add underline y. However, if x hasn't implemented add, and x and y are of different types, then y little red x is called.
Okay.
They are nothing. They are I cannot even read. I'm sorry. Nothing. Their equivalent R method for all magic method just mentioned. Example. In the example above, we define the division operation for our class specialized string. Bank accounts. We need to add together 2 bank accounts objects, fix the code to make it work as expected, and output to resulting account balance.
So I just realized something. I've been saying this wrong this whole time. I've been calling modular stuff floor division. So I guess, yeah, that's what I should have been saying. So my bad if that screwed y'all up and got that stuck in your head. The percent sign, that's modular. But anyway, okay, so with this one, if we do SAM, which we define, or spam, which we defined here, and hello world, which we defined here, if somebody then calls on the true division, so just regular division, which is called true division here, it says, okay, we'll do this for if it's true division. So the line is equals times the len of the other one, so whatever this word is, and then return a new line and join the whatever the word was that we passed in, the string concatenation, plus this line that we defined here, plus the other one, which is being added, which would be the hello one. I might have gone over that too fast. I can go over it again if y'all need. Does this make sense for y'all? Anybody have any questions, or does this just not make sense to anybody?
Well, why would it do spam hello?
Okay, so we defined 2 different instances of, so we did spam, right? And we called this class special string, and we passed in spam, which is when we initialize it, we're saving spam into right here, right? But then we're saying if somebody does this class together twice and does a division, because it could have been any of these, right? If we could have changed this out for mod, right? And so if somebody did mod and then we change this to mod, it's still going to do the same thing, even though we're telling it to do some weird stuff, right? It doesn't really matter if we're actually telling it to do the right thing. Like if we're actually telling it to add or subtract or anything, you don't have to actually technically do any of that. You just tell it what to do if somebody tries to do that type of character, right? That type of magic operator. So if somebody tries to do that with two of the special string instances, then we're saying, okay, do this. So like we're setting the line for the length of the second word, and then we are joining the two words, adding line and adding the second instance. Does that make sense?
So the spam doesn't actually have to do anything with like spam mail.
No. It's just a random word. Like
Okay.
didn't put eggs because like Python, spam and eggs from Monty Python.
Okay.
I've never really watched, so I don't know what skit
Me
that's referencing, but apparently it's referencing some skit.
Okay.
But it's just a word. Like anything in quotes is just a string. It's just like words that you're writing. It's not an actual like variable. It's not an actual like something you're calling or whatnot, like a class or a function or anything. It's just some random word that you're writing. So now does it make sense, or do you need me to keep explaining? I'm happy to explain.
Yeah, no, I just, when I see spam, coming from the IT background, for us, that's like spam email crap
Yeah.
that shouldn't be coming in. So I wasn't sure using the word spam in this block. I was wondering if that stuff would be then deleted off or something like that. So
Yeah, no, it doesn't have anything to do with like email spam. So, but good question though.
Typically, these interfaces will have something in blue if it has like a predetermined function.
Yeah, like len right here, or like return and self and stuff like that, or
So
def.
if you see something that's not like that next to an equals, then 9 times out of 10, it's just a variable that's made up.
okay.
Good looking out. Thanks for the assist. So go ahead and answer. Oh wait, actually we got the bank account one. So go ahead, work on the bank account and raise your hand once you're done.